Abbott's admonitions. 1. If you have to ask, you're not entitled to know. 2. If you don't like the answer, you shouldn't have asked the question. Abram's advice: when eating an elephant, take one bite at a time. Absolute principle: beauty is only skin deep, ugly goes to the bone. Atkison's rule of the bureaucracy. A memorandum is written not to inform the reader, but to protect the writer. Adam's corollary. It's easy to tell when you've got a bargain. It doesn't fit. Aids law. Anybody can win, unless there happens to be a second entry. Agnes Allen's law. Almost anything is easier to get into than out of. Einer's axiom. No matter how well you perform your job, a superior will seek to modify the results. Airplane law. When the plane you're on is late, the plane you want to transfer to is on time. Allen's law of research. The theory is supported as long as the funds are. Albrecht's law. Social innovations tend to the level of minimum tolerable well-being. Alfred's law of NIMBYism. Not in my backyard. The guy holding the biggest sign demanding that the freeway be torn down moved in 6 years after it was constructed. Algren's precepts. Never eat at a place called Mom's. Never play cards with a man named Doc. And never lie down with a woman who's got more troubles than you. Alinsky's rule for radicals. Those who are most moral are farthest from the problem. Allen's axiom. When all else fails, read the directions. Allen's distinction. Allen's biblical distinction. The lion and the calf shall lie down together, but the calf won't get much sleep. Allen's law. Almost anything is easier to get into than to get out of. Allen's law of civilization. It is better for civilization to be going down the drain than to be coming up it. Allie's axiom. Justice always prevails 3 times out of 7. Alligator allegory. The objective of all dedicated product support employees should be to thoroughly analyze all situations, anticipate all problems prior to their occurrence, have answers for these problems, and move swiftly to solve these problems when called upon. However, when you are up to your ass in alligators, it is difficult to remind yourself that your initial objective was to drain the swamp. Allison's precept. The best simple-minded test of expertise in a particular area is the ability to win money in a series of bets on future occurrences in that area. A man's law of management. Everyone is always someplace else. Amara's law. We tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long run. Anderson's law. Any system or program, however complicated, if looked at in exactly the right way, will become even more complicated. Anderson's law of media production. When creating a media project, you may choose 2 and only 2 of the following. 1. Inexpensive. 2. Quality. And 3. Fast. Andrews's canoeing postulate. No matter which direction you start, it's always against the wind coming back. Andy and Bill's law. The law describes how, when a computer chip is released, new software will be released to use up all of its power. Anthony's law of force. Don't force it, get a larger hammer. Anthony's law of the workshop. Any tool, when dropped, will roll into the least accessible corner of the workshop. Corollary. On the way to the corner, any dropped tool will first always strike your toes. Approval seeker's law. Those whose approval you seek the most give you the least. Aquinas' axiom. What the gods get away with, the cows don't. Arithmetic of cooperation. When you're adding up committees, there's a useful rule of thumb that talents make a difference and follies make a sum. Army axiom. Any order that can be misunderstood has been misunderstood. Army law. If it moves, salute it. If it doesn't move, pick it up. If you can't pick it up, paint it. Arnold's first law of documentation. If it should exist, it doesn't. Arnold's second law of documentation. If it does exist, it's out of date. Arnold's third law of documentation. Only useless documentation transcends the first 2 laws. Arthur's first law of love. People to whom you are attracted invariably think you remind them of someone else. Arthur's second law of love. The love letter you finally got the courage to send will be delayed in the mail long enough for you to make a fool of yourself in person. Ashley's first law. If you can't learn to do it well, you should learn to enjoy doing it badly. Asimov corollary to Parkinson's law. In 10 hours a day, you have time to fall twice as far behind your commitments as in 5 hours a day. Astrology law. It's always the wrong time of the month. Athena's rule of driving courtesy. If you allow someone to get in front of you, you both will have the same destination, and the other car will get the last parking space. Atlas's laws of medical research. Successful research attracts the bigger grant, which makes further research impossible. The progress of science varies inversely with the number of journals published. Attila's instruction. Always remember to pillage before you burn. Attorney's operating principle. Any simple idea must be worded in the most complicated way. Atwood's 14th corollary. No books are lost by lending except those you particularly wanted to keep. Augustine's laws. There are 50 laws. Some examples. Rule 30. By the time the people asking the questions are ready for the answers, the people doing the work have lost track of the questions. Rule 38. The early bird gets the worm. The early worm gets eaten. Rule 49. Regulations grow at the same rate as weeds. Avery's observation. It does not matter if you fall down as long as you pick up something from the floor while you get up. Avery's rule of 3. Trouble strikes in series of 3s. But when working around the house, the next job after a series of 3 is not the 4th job. It's the start of a brand new series of 3. Avian law. A bird in the hand is safer than one overhead. Axiom of promotions. What gets you promoted on one level will get you fired on another. Axiom of the pipe. Trishman's paradox. A pipe gives a wise man time to think and a fool something to stick in his mouth.